Action Hour. I'm your host, Lindsay Baker, and today we will be talking to a dynamic creative team, Adam Fisk and Fia Perera, who have created an outstanding graphic novel, Pippa and the Major, featuring a fearless 1800s heroine fighting against fur trade and whaling. This novel tackles crucial issues like speciesism, racism, and sexism.
Fia, thank you so much for coming. Fia, I want to ask you right off the bat. I know, unfortunately, Adam has having some technical issues. He's overseas, was not able to make it. Why did you both feel this was so important to make this graphic novel in order to promote activism, etc.?
First of all, Lindsay, thank you so much for having me on Unchained TV. I love the platform, and it's a pleasure. We wanted to create a story that had humor, but was also based in some real historical truth, which is actually based on my family history. But what was very important to me as a woman is to portray characters that are there were feminists back in the 1800s. Pippa is a feminist. You see her, she's behind me. And there were people that did not eat animals. There were people that were trying to fight on behalf of Native American rights. And we just see a lot of what all the horrible things that, or the things that were not happening in terms of all the colonialism and taking the land and all these things. But we rarely saw actual, characters that are depicted of doing positive things for animals and for gender and for women. And I think that that's why we wanted to create this story, is to have some humor, real truths, but also depict real people that were living back in those times.
Let me just stop you there for a sec.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how it tied into your family and how you happened to come to know that there were these activists back then. Did you do some study of it, or how did that all come about for you to make that connection?
Yes. So basically, my ancestor, Anthony Thatcher, founded the town of Yarmouth. He was one of the founders in 1653 in Yarmouth. That's on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And so kind of Adam is, who unfortunately is in the UK right now, but we did a lot of research together, and we found that there was another relative of mine that had fought on behalf of the British against the French, and then was friends and was supporting a lot of the people in the local tribe. And so local tribe actually fought with my ancestor on behalf of the British in Quebec against the French. And so we kind of wove that into the story. There's also Black Bellamy, who's a real pirate. The Widja, his ship went down off of Cape Cod, I believe around Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. And so we kind of wove in all those real characters and to create a beautiful storyline. There's also, there's something for everybody in this. Because I'm an animal activist, Pippa is a feminist. I am a feminist. And she's somebody that is fighting against the fur trade. She stops the fur trade. She shuts down this fur fashion show in a really fun way. And then there's also the whaling. She shuts the whaling down because she becomes the mayor of the town. So she shuts that down, and it's kind of fun. The world's first selfie, which is a guy doing a portrait of a woman.
Right.
And so so it's using comedy and real history to make a point that's not hitting people over the head. And I think as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, as a writer, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I am doing that, is to have an impact in making people think through entertainment. And then they can kind of think, oh my gosh, we need to stop whaling. The ocean plastic, or what's going on with the whaling, connect the dots. So you did have characters back then. There's one of our very significant characters is this fabulous gay man. Listen, there were a lot of LGBTQ plus representation hundreds of years ago. Men were always playing women in plays. There was a lot of that. Most of that community was in the closet. But so I think it's about normalizing those. We're normalizing those stories today, having a lot of the support for inclusivity and diversity, but it's also allowing those stories to come out from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. I think what you both are doing is just amazing. We have Yeah, we have here the log line. So I was going to go into that a little bit, but you went ahead and went through that for us in such an eloquent way. But let me just go back to Adam for a second. Let's give him a little bit of talk about him for a moment. So Adam worked in the corporate world, I understand, and then decided to get into his creative side and to explore that. And he also was friends with a gentleman you became an artistic partner with him, creative partner, and you've done several projects that we're going to talk about in a moment. But what was Adam vegan when you met him, or how did that all come about that you guys came together to write this book? I was going to ask him this question, but
Yes, yes. So Adam has always been an animal. He's always been an advocate. He's a big supporter of Sea Shepherd. And when he was in his 20s, he actually was working near a slaughterhouse, an abattoir in the UK. And the sounds of the animals being slaughtered and just all that, I think he had to go and also inspect it for a job or something. But he's talked about the visceral fear, the horror show that he witnessed. And so he made that decision to not eat animals anymore. So, and when we met several years ago, we met on one of those wonderful apps. I'm not going to say which one because we don't need to give them attention unless they're giving us significant amount of money. And we just really connected. We connected in our terms of our views, and we've maintained a beautiful friendship. And that's a real testament to we have a lot of shared beliefs together. And so creating this book was really a joy for both of us. And coming together and Adam has his sense of and his knowledge of history is uncanny. He is incredible. We would drive in Europe and he'd be like, tell me how many soldiers died in the Second World War on this field and the Germans and this and that. His sense of history is amazing. He is the Major and I'm Pippa. So we really jumped into that story to celebrate. And it's just been so much fun. One of the local bookstores on the Cape actually has been selling some of our novels, the book. And it's just been a great touchstone, and it's brought us together. So we've got the book, Pippa and the Major, 18th century love story, loosely based on historical facts. We always say loosely because I don't want the Historical Society on the Cape to come after me, even though I know a lot of them.
Right.
But, so we've created a couple projects together. And
before we go into the
next thing,
let's not go to the next project yet. I saw where you were going. Let's just go back. I wanted to add this to the stage for a moment here. As the star, so people know where to go. There it is. That's the website. Oh, no, wait. Did I bring the wrong thing?
They can go to, it's on Amazon. So if you Google Pippa and the Major, it's on Amazon. We've been selling a ton of books there. And if you're on the Cape, there's, Parnassus Bookstore, but the safest place to buy it always is Amazon.
Right. And okay, great. That's what I wanted to bring out. And I was going to show people the website, but you've already covered that for us. Yeah. So let's go on to one of the other projects. Of course, before you did this one, you also worked as an activist on another cause. You were working on the LGBTQ community with them, getting involved in actually several projects, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of work with them. So I'm talking about Mermaid. So I don't want to show a clip of it because there is some language that, frankly, for the audience, just to let you know, could get us kicked off TikTok, hate language. Facebook.
We don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that because we want people to see this interview. So, but we do have, which is great, reviews, and they are raving. So let's watch those.
Larger concept through a child's lens. I think you opened up this conversation to the audience as well, and to audiences who wouldn't necessarily be super well versed or knowing that much about transgender nature, and you do this very well through the eyes of this child. So you did a wonderful job, and I know that this film will mean so much to so many people.
Short captured such raw and guttural emotion throughout the entire piece, and it was amazing. The story is a lot that I think a lot of people can relate to, and that's what makes it amazing. It seems like this team and this creator put so much passion into this project, and I felt all the issues they were trying to portray, and the savior of another person, another drag queen, if you will, or somebody who's also in the LGBTQ community, was so well done, and I loved I loved how it ended. It ended on such a good note, and it was phenomenal.
It was amazing. Kids are ruthless with teasing, and I can only imagine how tough it is for a kid to experience bullying like that and to still feel normal. The bigger the glass, the smaller your fingers look is actually a really good line. This was an amazing short. The older actor was incredible, and the younger one was just as good. This was great casting all around.
The bigger the glass, the smaller your fingers look. Tell us, what does that mean?
First of all, okay, so it's PereraPictures.com, not Perera Films, but that's cool. So Lindsay, a little bit about me is that I secretly want to be a drag. I refer to my dear friends that are creatives as drag artists because they are artists. And I always secretly want to be a drag artist. And my friends say, now you can finally maybe someday be a drag artist, Fia. So I love that whole world. I always say, if it weren't for the drag artists, and I'm sorry about my dogs, if it weren't for fabulous gay men, I would not actually I wouldn't have learned to be more feminine. So I actually got that line from a friend of mine who was this beautiful trans singer. And she actually said to me when she was holding up this giant glass, she goes, honey, little trick, the bigger the glass is, the smaller your fingers look. And I just thought that was so amazing. And her name was Silva. And she goes, my name is Silva. And I just loved Silver. And so Silver kind of morphed into Pepper, because Pepper LaBeija from Paris is Burning is like a god. But so that's those funny lines being inspired by that community. And, I just love the LGBTQ plus IA community. Because I think they are just some of the most interesting, the coolest people ever. And the fact that it takes a lot of courage to really strike out and be who you really are. And especially with all the different obstacles that are presented in this very complex modern culture. So to wave your flag and be who you really are, I'm a big proponent of that as a woman, as a creator, and as an activist. Plant your flag. Be who you want to be. Do not back down, whether it's for LGBTQ plus IA rights, animal rights. Those are my big passions, those things. And I just, I'll do whatever I can to help those communities. So yeah, the bigger the glass is, the smaller your fingers look. It's true.
I love that. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about, where is the film right now, and at what stage is it, and talk a little bit about
Sure.
awards, right? So talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Sure. So what the audience saw, and I also want to give Lindsay, you a huge shout out, because Lindsay did the poster to the movie, and we might even be using that in the feature. So what the audience saw was just a little snapshot of it's a proof of concept, which was my short. And I originally shot that 2 scenes for the feature to show investors, to give them an idea what the whole movie is going to be like so they can invest. And the response I got from the short was so wonderful that I entered it into a number of festivals. It won a bunch of awards. And it actually helped me raise a big chunk of money for my feature that we are shooting in September in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. So that's really exciting. So we are in pre-production right now. So we're still, and we're still getting a lot more, angels to come on board, to support the film, but we're moving steadily forward into, to putting together our cast. We're working with a casting director, and it is a testament of coming together. It takes a village to make a movie. It takes a village to support, in this movie, a child that is it's a little boy, tough boy that wants to be a mermaid, and is clear that they are somebody else. And dad dad who doesn't, dad doesn't really understand what's going on with his child. And Bill, the father, has this beautiful journey. But it's all these characters that come together. Pepper, who is a fabulous black gay man that lives in this gorgeous house, who's now circling the drain because his partner died. He used to own this drag club and is still living there. So it's their friendship. And they come together. Pepper becomes the mother that Cassie never really had, gives Cassie the tail to become the mermaid that Cassie truly wants to be. And dad gets to really embrace and see his child as how she wants to be. So it's a beautiful story. And we're getting the towns that are coming together of supporting the film on the Cape is pretty amazing. I mean, the actual, we're probably going to have floats from actual people,
Wow.
And restaurants that are actually in this town.
Now, what's happening in November? Is that this coming November, or
no, this is September. We're shooting in September in 3 months.
Oh, okay.
The feature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
if people want to see the short film is on Amazon and it's also on Apple, and it's part of an anthology. So they can see that as well, and we can include that on the link. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you can go to your website.
The Edge of Her Mind anthology that Dawn Fields put together with 8 other films, really wonderful films that deal with mental health issues for women.
Okay, so they should just go to just to be clear.
Yes.
They go to pererapictures.com and they'll find it under upcoming projects. Yep. They'll click down here and click and they can watch it.
That's
along with some other amazing shorts.
That's right. And if anybody,
I watched it. I went there yesterday and did that. That's how I know.
Wonderful. And if anybody is on the Cape at the end of September and you want to be in our parade, we would love that. And if you want to be in my club scene, we'd love to have you be in the club scene as well. We just ask that nobody does a Twyla Tharp and tries to steal attention from the dance floor. But it's coming together. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of work, fast and furious. But I'm really looking forward to seeing this come to fruition with amazing actors.
That's amazing. I want to move on because we want to talk about your other project and a little bit about your activism. And believe it or not, we're almost out of time. So let's talk about the other project, Paul and Trisha. Let's talk about that, if you would. Yes. And I think I have a picture here. Actually, I have a little clip. Why don't I play that?
As an artist, Paul Whitehead interpreted the world around him.
Here we are, the playground. Welcome to my world.
Creating dazzling works of art for legends in their time.
Over the course of my career, I've worked with some really great people, like Peter Gabriel, Peter Hamill from Van der Graaf, Genesis, art directed with John Lennon and the Beatles.
But despite his success, the one thing Paul couldn't express.
You learn very early on that what you do for a living as an artist doesn't conform with most people's norms.
Was his true self.
So they think you're a weirdo.
Until he...
To me, the actual transition takes place when I put the wig on.
Discovered her.
Power. Realize your power. Go where you want to go.
I realized she's an identity. I want to be the prettiest me that I can be with all the physical handicaps I've got. So without thinking what you're doing, you just start work. I have this ambition to be the transgender Bob Ross.
Paul Whitehead.
I discovered that I didn't fit into a box.
Trisha Van Cleef.
By not fitting into that box.
Two people enjoined together by art.
She was going to upset people.
After a lifetime of artistic achievement.
As an artist, as a transgender person.
He learned his masterpiece.
It's not my purpose in life to make other people feel comfortable.
May have been herself.
My purpose in life is to make me feel comfortable.
Paul and Trisha. The art of fluidity.
Wow, that looks like another amazing project. Fia, you are so talented. And I know
Thank you, my dear. Tell that to more of the Netflix producers, because I need to make at least $1 million a year because I have a lot of farm animals that I want to rescue.
Yeah. So before we go on to all your activism, let's talk a little bit about the film. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. So Paul and Trisha, The Art of Fluidity, Paul Whitehead and Trisha Van Cleef are very dear friends of mine. And I met them through Adam. And they live up in Ventura. They are amazing individuals. And I was so moved. And Adam, how the whole thing started was that Adam was actually during COVID was Trisha and Paul's art agent. And they had also published a book of all Paul's work and everything. And they were going to go on the road with a pop-up show, and they had these wonderful 3 animated shorts that Adam's son Ben Fisk and his best friend Jordan McLaughlin did together. They're both amazing filmmakers and animators. And so they had these 3 wonderful shorts about Paul's life. And so Adam said, well, why don't you take the shorts and see if you can weave it into maybe a short film with the shorts. And then once I started looking and really getting to know Paul and Trisha, I realized this is not a short film, it's a feature doc. And I really wanted to explore the fluidity of their gender and the artwork and how just the differences and also the likenesses and the synergy of the two. And the statement really that they say is, and that's something we all should live by, our purpose in life is to make ourselves feel comfortable, not anybody else.
I love that. But I do want to stop you for 1 second because you speak, I just want to make sure I understand and the audience understands. You speak of it as they,
yes,
like it's 2 separate people. And so can you go into that a little more? Because I know that I understand, but I don't know that will confuse some.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand there's a lot of, it seems to be a kind of this fluid matrix of pronouns and identity that sometimes confuses people. Paul Whitehead found out when he was in his 50s that there was Trisha Van Cleef. And you'll see that in the movie. So there was that other identity. I refer to Paul and Trisha as they. But Paul has a great sense of humor and says, he identifies as he, and when he's Trisha as she. But I just say they because I see there's Paul and Trisha, 2 together, is the duality together. So they are gender fluid, which is under the trans umbrella, which means that back in the day, they would consider, or they'd say cross-dressing, but we don't really say cross-dressing because it's part of that identification of being two genders together coexisting in one body, almost non-binary. But Paul and Trisha they're able to be gender fluid and go back and forth between Paul and Trisha. It's wonderful. So it made it very challenging for me to really it made it very challenging for me to really pare it down because there was so much material that I wanted to explore, but I wanted to keep the spine of the fact that you can be 2 people. You can identify as both without having to physically change your gender if you don't feel comfortable with doing that. So you can be both genders in the same body without physically doing anything. It's how you identify and feel. And that's the other thing too, is that everybody's interpretation, how they identify, is their business. It's
Right.
no one else's choice or business. And so that's one thing I really want to impress upon people watching, just to support other people. You might not understand when somebody wants to transition or they identify as a different gender or 2, but allow them, just sit back and go, well, how would I want people to treat me if that's how I were feeling? So it's a very personal thing in terms of how people identify. So I hope that brings a little clarity. I know
it does. It does. I think you did a great job. But I also want to maybe point out that is it necessarily people who are transgressors, they are not necessarily see themselves as 2 people, right? All the
no.
Everyone is different. Right?
Yes, everybody's different.
Paul and Trisha are talking about this than I am, but please go ahead.
Yeah, no, Paul and Trisha are gender fluid, but there are people that are trans women and trans men, and then there are individuals that are non-binary. There are many different many different identifications within
dynamics. Yeah.
they in particular identify, they are under the trans umbrella as gender fluid. So, but it's just whatever, it's been a real eye-opening experience for me. And just the couples I have met that have supported each other, whether their partners are transitioning, and the love and the acceptance and the complexities that they've had to kind of grapple with themselves as they support their partner. And it really is a testament of love and acceptance. That's what I have in Mermaid. It's I see you, I love you for who you are, as opposed to being just being negative and not accepting and discrimination. So that's the positive. It's a very positive film, and it also deals with their artwork. There are over 250 pieces of artwork in the film, and and Paul and Tricia just want to say that anything people see in the film, you can actually buy.
Wow,
I know because I have.
There's some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, and the fact that Paul worked with artists like Peter Gabriel, the musician, and did the album covers back in the day when those album cover art, that was a whole art form in itself.
Oh yeah. And
that has long passed with the computers, because those people drew by hand and painted everything by hand.
Paul, that's the thing people need to know about. If you Google Paul Whitehead, he's very famous. He was very good friends with Peter Gabriel, still is. We actually went to see Peter in concert, and I had to get back for my dogs. Otherwise I would have met him backstage. It's bummed next time. But we are excited. I think Peter is going to be watching the film. So that's going to be exciting. But so Paul created Foxtrot, Nursery Crimes, a lot of the iconic album covers for Genesis, the early Genesis, pre-Phil Collins. Went on to work with Peter Hamill, Van de Graaff Generator, a big artist. Has worked with, was good friends with Carlos Santana, all these things. He was John Lennon's art director for Time Out UK. He created one of the album covers that they considered, that they ended up going with the White Album. So he's done work for George Harrison. He's an amazing artist. He created the first actual drive-through billboard art show, which is also, we talk about in the film. And he was able to use his activism with the billboards too, with this huge whale, and, be able to incorporate animal activism in a couple of those things with the billboards. So it's been a really, the journey that they're on is phenomenal. And what I love about it is they are in there, they would say, don't say how young I am, but they're older, but they are ageless when you watch the film, and the twinkle that they have in their eye, and that they continue to create. And I think that's the biggest message too, is don't stop pursuing your dreams. You can keep creating any age. So
absolutely. All super good messages. I just want to finish up with your activism. I know you're involved with so many different organizations, and that's actually how we met, through activism. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the ones that you're working on right now?
Oh, well, I've got a little poster here that you see that?
Oh, yes.
Burrows. I can go back, keep them wild there. I'm a big proponent of saving our wild horses, but yes, I have been involved with animal activism for years now. I worked on a huge campaign with the Humane Society to stop the Canadian seal hunt years ago. And that's how I really started getting into the activism, as I saw a sealer about to club a 2-week-old baby seal. And I just flipped out. And I just moved to LA. I'd optioned the script, and I saw that, and I immediately contacted PETA, IFA, and the Humane Society. And the Humane Society said, we're going to bring you on board as an activist and outreach coordinator. And they said, go out and get restaurants to boycott Canadian seafood, to put pressure on the Canadian fisheries to not, to stop going out and employing fishermen that are killing the seals, and those that are selling cod and other seafood, but are also sealers, have permits. So I really got involved with that campaign for years, and I recruited a lot of very famous chefs that said, we're not going to buy Canadian seafood. We had a whole app and all that stuff. And unfortunately, the seal hunt is still going on, but the numbers have decreased significantly because, let's face it, people don't want to be eating seal meat. They don't want to be eating seal meat. The younger people in Canada don't want to go out and kill seals. It's primarily, it's a lot of the Inuit people that are doing it. And so I also, as a storyteller, I use that as an opportunity to go up to Canada. I also wrote a movie about it called The Front. That is a full-on, it's a love story that takes place on the backdrop of the seal hunt. It's a very much of it's an activist, it's a documentary film within a love story with a lot of action. And that's a movie that should get made. So if there's any executive producers that have a lot of money, that's a great movie. That all takes place up in Newfoundland.
And that's exactly, I mean, if a executive producer that wants to also do something amazing for the environment, I think what you're doing is the right approach. It's it's the way to reach people through art. It always has been. Back in the Renaissance day, and when they had all those beautiful glass stained windows, all of that came from trying to educate people through art. So it still works.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Lindsay. And so from the Humane Society, working on the No to Dog Meat with them, with Mark Ching, you and I met through all that. And then with the factory farm issues, I've rescued close to 100 farm animals. I don't have my own sanctuary, but I was able to get them either relocated to other sanctuaries with, collaborating with other activists like Katie Cleary. Simone helped a lot with the cows. And then I have several pigs that went to Steampunk Farms Rescue Barn, Crystal Trumbull. They're still there. You remember Tallulah, and then she passed away, but that she was my beautiful piggy girl, piggy princess, but she died of natural causes as opposed to being violently slaughtered. And her babies are still there. So please support Steampunk Farms Rescue Barn. I mean, they're amazing, Steampunk. So I just continue to do what I can. And I'm very, very vocal about the wild horse issues, the BLM roundups that are just awful, that are happening. I also just feel very passionate about what's going on with shark finning, with the ghost nets. It's just an endless, just pipeline of misery for a lot of these animals. And so we all need to keep speaking up. And of course, right now, it's very upsetting that you have the Yulin Dog Meat Festival, but what people don't realize, most people watching this realize, but a lot of people don't realize, is this horror show of the dog and cat meat trade is 365 years for animals. Right. So, it's, NARD does a wonderful job of like, look, if you love animals, you love your dog, don't eat animals, period, because every animal deserves to live. So, yeah. It's something I really, more than anything, that's my passion, with animal welfare and obviously the LGBTQ plus, because it's the voiceless. It's these children, it's the animals that have they don't know what's happening to them.
Absolutely. And we all need to,
and my hat is off to all those brave activists that are shutting down the gas chambers that advocate for these animals. I wish I could be more like that. And my goal is to be able
well, we all have to do what we do the way we do it. What I mean?
My goal is to get into a platform where I can, I'll be known as the cause director in every movie or every show I direct. You'll have a hat and I'll be like, all right, everybody, let's give to this. What can we do now to stop, whether it's poaching, anti-poaching, the poaching issues in Africa for that organization, whether it's giving to Direct Action. I really love what they're doing, different organizations to support the equality and to advocate for animals. And you, Lindsay, do a great job, and so does Jane. Jane is incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being on. Let's just remind everyone that they can download Unchained TV, the app, for free at watch.unchainedtv.com.
Yes.
And my show, of course, sorry, I'm really messing this up today. My show is Action Hour on unchainedtv.com. So be sure and download it. Fia, thank you so much for being here. Keep us posted. You'll have to come back on again and tell us how things go with the shoot, etc. We're really excited. I'm sure we'll hear all about it through the media as well. So
Thank you so much.
Very, very nice to have you on. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Lindsay. It's been a pleasure. You've been so supportive. I love what Unchained is doing. Jane is amazing. I've said that, just said that, but I just, it takes a village to help these animals, and together we can. And like you said, if you're not out there marching or chaining yourself to a tree, even just donating, supporting these charities, supporting the activists really helps. Yeah, signing petitions and sharing, because every minute, everything that you take, everything you do can help an animal.
Right.
So
there's always a way to help. Thank you so much, Fia. We need more people like you in the world.
Oh, ditto. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Okay, everyone. Bye-bye.